What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing awesome and taking care of yourselves. Shall we make a run for it? Shall we make a break for it? Shall we make a jailbreak for it, baby? Let's go. Let's go on a ride. So, what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about a little conflict I have between what the Y-Files states versus what I believe in regards to the Georgia Guidestones. Now, in a recent episode, the Y-Files stated that the Georgia Guidestones were basically a New World Order, satanistic, horrible idea for humankind. That's what the Y-Files stated. Now, I will preface this by stating that I love the Y-Files. I listen to almost every episode, and almost every episode is amazing. Okay, probably one of the best, alien conspiracy podcasts out there. Yeah, you can go listen to them and you can listen to me too at the same time. That's fine. But what am I talking about? Well, in a recent podcast, they talked about, what the Georgia Guidestones are. And I've talked about this on a couple podcasts that I did a couple of years ago, when the Georgia Guidestones basically were destroyed by we don't know who. Could have been the government, could have been just a random one-off, vigilante. But I'll tell you what the Guidestones are real quick, and then we'll talk about what they actually said on them and what the Y-Files said versus what I believe, okay? Now, in my mind, the Guidestones actually make a hell of a lot of sense. There's a lot of people that believe, they're reptilian based, they're satanistic based, they want New World Order, and we can't have a New World Order, and da-da-da-da. Well, why can't we have a new world order? It can just be a different type of world than we have now. I mean, think about it. Back in the, early 1100s, people were just slicing people's necks just for money, and then later on we had 6-shooters in the Wild West. And there was no law. So why can't we have a new world order? It's just different than what we have. It doesn't have to be something evil, right? So let's look at it. Let's examine it. So the Guidestones, they were around since 1980, okay? They were erected by a company, but by a man who paid for them, okay? So a man by the pseudonym of Robert C. Christian, approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company and asked him to basically create this humongous erection. And it didn't matter the cost. He was willing to pay whatever it took. It didn't matter. The man reportedly used the synonym as a reference to the Christian religion. But he wanted it to withstand catastrophic events. He wanted it to have function as a compass, calendar, and a clock. And he wanted it to align with the North Star. Christian said he wanted to build the granite monument that would rival the British Neolithic monument Stonehenge, which it kind of did. It wasn't as wide, but it was definitely taller, and drew inspiration on it from a recent visit. So when he arranged the payment, Christian claimed that he represented a group which had been planning to construct the Guidestones for 20 years, but wanted to remain anonymous. The project was an insane amount of money, okay? It was over $100,000, equivalent to $400,000 in 2023. So this was just the beginning. So what does this say on the Guidestones? Okay, let's get right down to it, because I don't need to bore you with history. Let's take a look at it. So, and we'll talk about what happened. Was there any graffiti? Was there any destruction? Was there any protest to it? All that stuff. So what was on the Guidestones? And let's talk about whether or not we think it's accurate or not. Well, there's 10 basic principles on the Guidestones that were written in eight of the most popular spoken languages around the world. So it was written 8 times so that all of the languages could be represented. The number one guiding principle, according to the Guidestones, was that humanity had to maintain a population under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Why they chose 500 million, I don't have any clue. But for us to achieve 500 million, 94% of Earth's population of humanity would have to be destroyed. Now, you might say, holy shit, that's horrible, da-da-da-da-da. How could they do that? Well, you got to keep in mind that this construction was supposed to withstand all kinds of cataclysms. So if it was going to withstand a cataclysm that took out 99% of us, then at least the 1% would have a guiding principle in order to follow by, right? Maybe the people that were in charge of or interested in creating this and paid for it had future knowledge of the fact that we would not be around, right? Right. So in that case, if they were able to see into the future, if these guys were able to tap into the collective unconscious, if they had a device like the Golden Book, or what's the device that they created for the Chronovisor? If they had a device that could look into the future and they could see that a virus was going to wipe us out, a comet was going to wipe us out, an alien invasion was going to wipe us out, and we'd only have 1% left, well, guess what? This would be nice to have. Now, the Y-Files stated that, the people that created this were, into eugenics and into, all of these negative aspects. And if that's the case, then, that is what it is. But does that mean that the rules on these stones that are guiding principles are wrong? Not necessarily. So let's look at the next one. The next guiding principle is guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Well, that makes sense. It makes sense. Why would you want to create a whole population that's just a bunch of fat asses that are idiots? It makes no sense. Yet the Y-Files stated, well, that would be eugenics, and that would be against, people being able to reproduce. Keep in mind that these guidestones are for after a cataclysm. You're not going to have, a bunch of fat asses laying around. You're not going to have a bunch of people that are sick laying around. You're only going to have the healthy people that could survive the cataclysm laying around. And therefore, of course, you don't want to have interbreeding. You want to have a wide mix of the genetic pool. You want to mate with people that are different than you, that have good characteristics, good genetic characteristics. It's just common sense. You don't have to read so far into it that, this guy wrote this and he was in this, particular, organization and this and that. If you have a brain, you can understand that this makes sense. The third statement is unite humanity with a living new language. Now the Y-File states, you can't do that because that's the end of humanity. It's what it says in the Bible. If you have a one language population, then that's like why they built the Tower of Babel and Babel was destroyed. Well, Babel wasn't destroyed by God. Babel was destroyed probably by some alien species. Okay, it wasn't destroyed by God striking down his might on people. I mean, that's idiotic. So to unite humanity with a new living language, nothing wrong with that. Maybe they're talking about a new living language, a new type of language. Maybe unite humanity with telepathy. Do you think about that? And so that we wouldn't have to use our throats and our lungs to communicate, we can use our minds. That's a definite possibility. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. The next statement and guide is that they want you to rule with passion, faith, and tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Rule with passion, faith, and tradition. Rule with passion. Have passion for what you do. How many of us are working jobs that we don't want to do? Do something that you're passionate about. Faith. Have faith. Have positivity. Have belief that things can be achieved. Nothing wrong with that. Tradition. Well, tradition's a good thing. Some things in tradition are a good thing, right? They keep us on the straight and narrow. They keep us from eating poison ivy. They keep us from burning ourselves with fire. They keep us from recreating the events of World War II. Okay, so having tradition, having faith, having passion, and having all of these things with tempered reason, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Number 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. It's just as plain as day, okay? Fair laws, just courts. Who makes up those rules? Who makes up the laws? That's up to the people. And it's not going to be the people that are living now. All the people that made this up, they're not even going to be alive. It's going to be people reinterpreting this in their own methodology in the future. So to like say that, oh, well, John so-and-so was a part of the SS in Germany, and he said, oh, yeah, we should do this too. It has nothing to do with how people are going to interpret this in the future. They're going to say, okay, yeah, fair laws and just courts. Okay, that makes sense. If there's some sort of law that's insane, like, hey, we're going to decapitate you because you stole a piece of bread, it doesn't make much sense. Same thing with the rules and laws of today. Putting people in jail for 7 years for crimes that are, fraud or theft or white collar. If they're not an insane amount of money, if they're a small amount of money, putting people away for years and years and years is stupid. Okay, a lot of times people can be pay things back and do community service. For us to spend $150,000 on putting somebody away because they stole $1,000 is fucking stupid. Okay, so to create new laws, nothing wrong with that either, right? Very good. Let's go on to number 6, which is let all nations rule internally, solving external disputes in a world court. So basically, they're saying, hey, you can solve your problems internally, and then if you have an external issue, you can solve it in a world court. It's kind of what we have now. We kind of have the United Nations. And if you go against the United Nations, an attack against one is an attack against all. So to say that, this is wrong too, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Number 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials. 100% agree. How many officials do we really need that are appointed that we don't need? A whole bunch of them. A whole bunch. How many courts do we need? How many small town, area mayors do we need? How many small time, aldermen do we need? How many, just elected officials that don't do anything and just waste money do we need? We don't need a lot of them. So, and petty laws, like we were talking about, putting people away for like an insane amount of time for no reason, doesn't make a lot of sense. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Number 8, balance personal rights with social duties. Okay, so basically what they're saying is, having some social responsibilities, giving back to your public where you live, doing some social work, helping out people in times of need or just in general, and then balancing your personal rights, your personal abilities, your personal rights to go fishing, to hunt, to do whatever. It's balancing your rights versus the community's rights. Makes sense. Not a lot of leeway here to argue. What are you going to say? Oh, well, they're saying that they're going to take away your rights. No, they're not. Oh, well, they're saying you have to be communist. No, they're not. They're saying that you can commit to helping out your community and having your own personal rights. Nothing wrong there. Okay, number 9, prize truth, beauty, love, and seeking harmony with the infinite. So basically they're saying, hey, have arts. Don't forget about having arts in your life. It's important. We need to have the arts in our life to make it worthwhile, to enjoy life. Why would you not have this in some sort of guide stone for the future? If you had a population that lost their way in life, lost their way in how they communicate, having some sort of guidance in saying, hey, we should prize truth. honor, respect. You should prize beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite, seeking harmony with what we already know, which is already in us. It's innate. I don't see anything wrong with that. But there's going to be people that argue with that. And number 10 totally makes sense. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. They say it twice. Leave room for nature. It's super important. It makes sense. We're already overburdening all of the wildlife. The wildlife has been displaced. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to flourish. So we're taking out species as we're going here. And in the last 70 years, since 1950, we've been taking out species left and right. And we need to allow nature to grow, to experience itself. We're not, do we want one big human ball all over the earth? No, we don't. We want to have space for nature. We need that. So what ended up happening to the Georgia Guidestones? Well, it did have some graffiti that happened to it. It had a huge defacement on it. Let me zoom in on this and just see what it says here. It says, "You will not succeed. Jesus will beat you, Satanists. No New World Order. No one world government." And I don't know, some other stuff. Oh, yeah, it said some derogatory stuff about Obama. I mean, so you can tell who wrote some stuff on here, and basically that it was not a very intelligent person. If they're bringing in politics into this whole scenario, probably not too big of a brain there. In 2008, the stones were defaced with aerosol paint, and slogans such as "Death to the New World Order" happened. So in September 2014, an employee of the Elbert County Maintenance Department contacted the FBI when the stones were vandalized with graffiti, including the phrase, "I am Isis, the god of love." I don't know why that's bad, but maybe there's something negative in there. So after the acts of vandalism happened, security cameras were installed on site. And this is interesting because one of the candidates that was running in the 2022 Georgia Republican gubernatorial primary called for the Guidestones being satanic in a campaign ad, and her campaign platform called for the monument to be removed. But luckily for her, they were removed. Right on July 6th of 2022, an explosive device was detonated at the site, destroying the Swahili Hindi language slab and causing significant damage to the capstone, which is on top of all four pillars. The nearby residents reported and heard and felt the explosions around 4 a.m. The CCTV footage recorded a vehicle leaving the scene, and police investigated the incident. The remaining Guidestones were dismantled by authorities for safety reasons later in the day with a backhoe, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They reported digging and showed no evidence that there was ever a time capsule located below the Georgia Guidestones, which is kind of what they thought. There was, a lot of aftermath after this. I don't believe they ever caught anybody. No suspects were publicly identified. Their destruction of the embodiment would have given them a minimum sentence of 20 years in prison. So in late 2022, the Elberton mayor, Daniel Graves, said the town planned to rebuild the monument exactly as it was, adding, "We're just getting geared up and excited about rebuilding them. It's going to happen. It may take us 6 months, but we're going to do it." And then on August 8th of 2022, the council voted to begin proceedings to return the 5 acres of land that had been built on to their previous owner, which was a local farm. The city council announced the remains of the monument, which had been moved to a third-party location for safety reasons, would be given to the Elberton Granite Association, which is the county association. Both the Elberton Granite Association and the city council expressed doubt that the Guidestones would be rebuilt, but expressed hope that it would one day happen. So there you have it. So do you have any disagreement with what the statements say on the stones? The stones seem to be a standalone age of reason to a future population that might not have a whole lot of reason left. What if, let's just say, what if an alien species does come down and wipe a whole bunch of people out, and they are like out in the desert and wilderness or wherever for years and years and years and years and years, maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, and they come across these guide stones and they're like, oh, our ancestors actually gave us a set of guiding principles to live our life by. Well, what do we have right now? We have all kinds of books from all kinds of religions helping guide us in our daily lives, like the Bible, the Quran. You've got Buddhist writings and principles dating thousands of years ago. You've got all kinds of religions that have writings that they follow. This is not religious. This is just standard idealized practice, just common sense. Some of the cool things that they added into it were they wanted to channel the stone that indicates a celestial pole. They wanted to have a horizontal slot that indicates the annual travel of the sun, and they wanted sunbeam throughout the capstone that marked noontime throughout the year. So basically, it was a clock, a calendar, and a few other things. I think that, when we look at these kinds of artwork, of guidance, as long as there's nothing negative on it, don't make it negative. You don't have to dig into history to pull out a whole bunch of negativity about something. Yeah, it's great to know a lot about it, but if you're looking at it from a face value, I don't think there's anything in here that you can say is negative. See, even in here, even on like Wikipedia, they state, even Yoko Ono stated the inscribed messages were a stirring call to rational thinking. However, the Guidestone's inscriptions have also been accused of promoting eugenics and genocide. Nobody said go kill all of humanity to 94%. Nobody said that. They're saying keep the population to 500 million. And that's if we were down below 500 million, not killing off a whole bunch of people. And eugenics, well, yeah, I mean, a whole bunch of people could have a whole bunch of babies, which is what we have now. We have a whole bunch of people that are out of shape. They're in bad straits, dire straits, and they're not living their best life. What if we could have the best of the best breeding towards a beneficial future? Or limit it to like one kid per family. If you had it below 500 million, that's not going to be too hard. Okay? You're going to have a whole bunch of people that are kids or not. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of people that are like in middle age or younger age. You're not going to have a whole bunch of old people because medicine's not going to be there in an apocalypse. So all those people are going to be dead. They're not going to be able to walk. So you're going to have a population like at the beginning of time where you're going to have a bunch of people in their 30s to 50s. And that's probably going to be it. That's probably where a lot of people are going to cap out. And then they're going to be able to kind of create a new world. And a lot of people say that having something new would be a good thing. Who wants to live in this society where we have so much money that there should be no homeless, but yet there are people that are living in humongous homes that are far too large for themselves? Gluttony abounding, crime abounding, selfishness abounding. Some of these guiding principles would be a good way to go moving forward. So, am I against the Y-Files? No. They're allowed to have their own opinion. They're allowed to do their own research. And the research may be true, maybe not true. Either way, I don't care who created this. I care about the message. And that's kind of the way I think a lot of people look at things. Is the message touching us? And when you look at who you're going to vote for. I hope people don't always vote for Democratic or Republican. I hope that people vote for who they feel most in touch with, most aligned with, and that's going to be a benefit for society moving forward. So I think when you're looking at something to help you, if the message is right, follow the message. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. And I love the Y-Files. So, take care of yourselves spiritually, physically, emotionally. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. And Lockdown Universe out. Go like, follow, share, subscribe. Peace.